afternoon and welcome to CCN Midday News, The Rundown. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 27th of July. Florida now surpasses New York in confirmed COVID-19 cases. Tropical Storm Hanna threatens flash floods on COVID-hit Texas coast. And Jerry Kudlow says that the coronavirus relief will include $1,200 checks and extensions on eviction moratoriums. Joe Biden leads in 3 key states. Trump won back in 2016. Southwest CEO says the airline won't have furloughs, at least for now. Misogynistic lawyer who killed judge's son had a list of other possible targets. And black armed protesters march in Kentucky demanding justice for Breonna Taylor. Let's get to the news. Florida surpasses New York in confirmed coronavirus cases on Saturday, with state numbers skyrocketing to over 414,000 Floridians. Florida now has the second highest number of cases in the country, behind only California. With an additional 12,180 new infections, Florida has reported a total of 414,511 confirmed cases as of Saturday, topping New York. California has more than 440,000 total confirmed cases, according to Johns Hopkins University. New York, once a pandemic hotspot, reported an additional 750 people tested positive for the virus on Friday, bringing the state's total to 411,200 confirmed cases. This week, Florida also marked a grim milestone when it reported 173 deaths in a single day. Many ICUs are at or near capacity across the state. On Thursday, President Donald Trump announced he's canceling the Jacksonville portion of the Republican National Convention next month, citing Florida's coronavirus crisis. However, the president has been vocal about his desire for schools to reopen, even in the hardest hit of states. To the portion of the rundown in which I just give my commentary. First, let me apologize for Friday. I had something ready to go and uploading, and when I woke up, it wasn't uploaded. And then I tried to upload it 3, 4, 5 times, and it still would not upload onto YouTube, but the file would save on my end. So, don't know what that is. It's probably the politics of the whole thing. Who knows? But anyway, thank you all for being patient and working with me through these technical hiccups. But anyway, here we go with this first story, which of course it is the Sunshine State of Florida, with the numbers steadily climbing. Florida has now surpassed New York as far as numbers of coronavirus infections are concerned. There are now over 400,000 cases. Actually, to be exact, the total number is 414,511 cases. And that's as of Saturday, with a grim milestone of deaths reported at 173. And do I believe that those numbers, especially those death numbers, are lower so it doesn't look as bad? Yeah, I believe that those death numbers are just as high as their infection. There's no way you have an infection numbers almost in the 500,000 and only 173 deaths with the ICU and everything in your hospitals in certain counties at capacity. It just don't make sense. But anyway, again, we have to be more vigilant. You cannot, leave it to, sometimes years ago, I don't know where I'm going with this, but years ago, we used to kind of be dependent upon the leaders, the governors, or whatever, in times of crisis to lead. And in this instance, we have governors who lack leadership. You have state officials who lack leadership. And you can go and so forth and go all the way up. We have a president who lacks leadership abilities. So therefore, you have times where things like this occur, where their numbers are skyrocketing, and instead of bringing the attention to figure out what's the problem or how to curve the situation, the White House then jumps to having schools reopen. Just doesn't make any sense to me. As if kids won't bring the potential of the virus spreading further, not only to their own families, but they may bring it to their teachers, to the school personnel, and a wide range of things. I think we definitely need to sit down and consider the options, and I think homeschooling or some kind of virtual schooling for the moment is the best option. Let me know what your thoughts. Hurricane Hanna's winds lashed the South Texas coast early Sunday, knocking out power to thousands before it was downgraded to a tropical storm that still threatens flash floods in areas already badly hit by the COVID-19. Hanna came ashore on Padre Island on Saturday afternoon as a Category 1 hurricane, but shortly after landfall in Kennedy County, Texas, more than 283,000 homes and businesses were without electricity by mid-morning Sunday, according to the power outage report. But some locals took advantage of the wild weather. It is forecast to lose more steam as it moves across Texas and northeastern Mexico. And on Sunday, Weather Watch officials canceled the storm surge warning they had issued for the Texas coast. Hanna still pose a threat, the Hurricane Center says, dumping up to about 18 inches of rain in the area through Monday. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said on Saturday that the storm was especially challenging as it was sweeping through the area of the state that had been worst hit by the coronavirus. The Texas area struck by Hanna has struggled to contain the outbreak of the COVID-19 in recent weeks. Cases along the state's coast have soared into the tens of thousands. More than 400 people in Corpus Christi were hospitalized with illnesses on Friday, according to city data. The storm was expected to affect offshore gas and oil production. Energy companies have not evacuated workers or shut down production from their Gulf of Mexico platforms because of Hanna. And moving on to this next story, you know how they always used to say, especially in presidential campaigns, like who's going to be there to answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning? Who is going to be responsible enough to pick up the phone and answer in times of crisis when they get, that red phone, which is the emergency, all hell is broken loose, I guess, phone line, the Batman phone. But anyway, in talking with this story, the tropical storm, the hurricane that has been downgraded to a tropical storm, Hurricane Hanna, it is unfortunate when you have places, as far as on your local level of government, where in which things happen and there is no response to handle the situation head on, and it grows somewhat out of control, and then something else comes along and adds to that pressure and adds to that lack of leadership. And here you have a perfect example of that. Texas already dealing with the implosion of coronavirus cases, and then now they have a tropical storm that has come upon the coast. And at this point, it would already have been on the coast by the time we get this information, and the damage has already been done in some places, with people already out of work due to the pandemic. People somewhat on some sort of quarantine. This makes things a little more difficult. But again, if you were able to kind of hone in on the virus in the first place when it first broke out and we all took it seriously, you'd be able to counteract a lot of other things that happen during this time anyway, because of the time of the month we're in. We're approaching August, which is usually hurricane season for a lot of places. So therefore, there's no surprise there that we're approaching hurricane season, and this is the time of the year in which storms kick up. With that said, when you already have a crisis by the size of the pandemic, on top of that, it really strains the resources and the people of any particular state. So my prayers go out to the people of Texas. Hopefully this is a way for them to put the Republican Democrat thing aside and really work to get a handle on, one, the pandemic, and two, helping the people rebuild and restructure due to this tropical storm. White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said on Sunday that there is a second round of coronavirus relief that will include $1,200 stimulus checks to Americans, and the Trump administration will lengthen the federal eviction moratorium. On the State of the Union, CNN, Larry Kudlow said that there is a $1,200 check coming, and it's going to be part of a new package. Republicans have finalized the next relief bill worth of about $1 trillion, and it will be introduced on Monday. The legislation is set to provide temporary and reduced extensions of unemployment benefits, another round of stimulus checks, liability protection for businesses, and funding to help schools restart. It will also include a $16 billion in new funding for testing and tax incentives to encourage companies to rehire employees. The $600 weekly supplement to state unemployment checks that have been imposed since March ended on Saturday. Democrats wanted to extend the aid while Republicans are set to reduce the subsidy, arguing that the extended aid is a disincentive for unemployed Americans to find work. Kudlow also said that the administration plans to cap unemployment benefits on approximately 70% wage replacement. Last week, Republicans were considering extending insurance benefits at a reduced level of $400 per week or $100 per week through the rest of the year. As negotiations continue, it is unclear when the potentially reduced unemployment supplement will go into effect. The U.S. unemployment rate has surged to above 10% because of the pandemic, with nearly 32 million Americans now receiving unemployment benefits, according to the Labor Department. The White House and economic advisor Larry Kudlow had just come out and said that there will be a second $1,200 stimulus check in a new package which is due to be introduced on Monday. This will already be introduced by the time we are doing this. This is a $1 trillion plan or relief bill that the Republicans want to push out. However, they did reject Trump's payroll tax. Trump's wanted a payroll tax introduced in this new package in order for him to sign it. But I'm guessing they must have talked him out of that, or they found another way to give him a payroll tax, but he would have to sign this first. Who knows how they may be working this. But unemployment was due to fizzle out this weekend on Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see how those negotiations work. I know a lot of states said that they will continue the additional $600 of unemployment that was going to people during this pandemic, but we shall see how long. While the states are some continuing to do the $600, they will still be in negotiations on whether to continue. Many Republicans want to reduce the $600 to $400 per month, or $100 a week. For them, they figure that the $600 is not enough incentive to get people to go back to work, that people would rather stay home and collect the money. I mean, the mindset of a lot of these Republicans are a little far off. I mean, let's be very clear. If people decide to stay home and collect unemployment, it would probably mainly be because they felt unsafe working with the possibility of catching this virus that seems to be affecting so many. So that would be the major thing. I doubt that people would just want to stay home just to stay home, because the rigmarole that a lot of people probably have to go through for the unemployment, I would probably bet that they would rather work than have to go through all the paperwork, the red tape that they do to collect money that they work to put into. So I think they're a little wrong on that. But of course, again, we are coming into election season, so you will get all kinds of trinkets and things of that nature. Of course, they are looking to expand on the eviction moratorium that expired also on Friday. This gave the landlords kind of held them to keeping people from getting evicted. I'm sure that after this expired on Friday, eviction notices went out like hotcakes, and a lot of people, again, felt nervous and worried about their stability, because at this point, landlords got the green light to give out eviction notices because the Republicans were too busy trying to, iron out little details instead of working for the people. So hopefully this will be able to bring some relief to some people. It's unfortunate that you got to go through so much to get your own money back, but it's almost like when somebody asks you to borrow something and then you have to wind up borrowing it back and it's yours to begin with. It's almost like this in that situation, which is crazy to me. But anyway, I hope it brings relief to some people, because a lot of people need it. While politicians are playing around, there are people's real lives and things at jeopardy here when it shouldn't have been in the first place. But that's a whole nother story. With 100 days remaining until Election Day, voters in 3 critical battleground states swinging in the former Vice President Joe Biden's direction: Arizona, Florida, and Michigan, CNN polls conducted. In Florida, 51% Biden to 46% President Donald Trump. In Arizona, 49% for Biden, 45% for Trump. Registered voters are breaking in Biden's favor by the single-digit margin, while in Michigan, Biden lead stands at 52% to 40% President Donald Trump. Trump carried all 3 states back in 2016 with his narrowest win in any state coming from Michigan, which he carried by 10,704 votes. The poll results are among registered voters, but when looking only to those who say they're most likely to vote in this fall's election, support for the 2 candidates remains about the same. Across all 3 states, Trump's approval rating generally for handling the coronavirus outbreak and for handling racial inequality in the U.S. are underwater. There are some variations in the president's overall approval rating, with his disapproval rating standing at 57% in Michigan, 54% in Arizona, and 51% in Florida. The results suggest that the president could be on better ground in all 3 states. Should the country's focus shift to the economy, in Arizona and Florida, majority rates the president's positivity for his handling of the economy is at 52% approval in each state. Okay, so the polls come out. CNN poll that was done, and it shows that Biden has a lead in a lot of the battleground states that Trump won back in 2016. Now, do I fully believe the polls? No. Only because, one, although they poll a wide demographic of people, they don't poll everyone. On top of that, people, get behind the voting booth and change their minds and vote for who they want to, because when you're voting, you don't get the public scrutiny of who you voted for. So a lot of times people will say publicly that they may not vote for a candidate who is very unpopular, because they don't want the backlash and the scrutiny of that decision, so they just wait for election day and do it. Like in 2016, a lot of people, thought his nomination and even running for president was a bit of a joke. However, a lot of people did not think so, and they felt strongly about his candidacy one way or the other, whether it was the xenophobia, the underlying racism, the bigotry, whatever it was, it resonated with many voters. And although some voters claimed that they were going to vote for Hillary, obviously you either didn't vote or you switched your vote. So polls, I don't really, because of course in 2016 all the polls were saying, oh, Hillary's going to win, and then you wake up to what? This? So, polls are polls. If they remain the same and true come election day, great. But it is your job to make sure you exercise your right to vote while you still have it. Because it's your vote, it's your voice, and it's your power. So my suggestion is that we utilize it regardless of who you vote for. The importance is that you vote, that you make sure your voice matters. Even if your voice is different from everyone else's, you still have a voice and a right to vote, and you should always utilize it. Southwest Airlines says that it will not furlough any employees for now, despite the COVID-19's crushing blow to major airlines. Restrictions attached to federal bailout money barred airlines from implementing furloughs or layoffs through September. Early this month, both United Airlines and American Airlines sent warnings of possible furloughs to roughly 60,000 employees. Southwest says that 17,000 of its workers have already taken voluntary separation packages and extended time off. The airline is set to lose $20 million a day. The airline also secured $3.2 billion in cash proceeds under the CARES Act and sold common stocks to investors for $2.2 billion in cash and borrowed $12.2 billion from lenders. Airlines have experienced a tumultuous couple of months. Travel and booking took a hard hit early in the pandemic and bouncing back at the beginning of July only to see another downturn recently as cases spike again. In May, Warren Buffett disclosed that Berkshire Hathaway sold its entire stake in Southwest Airlines and 3 other major U.S. airlines because he believed that it would take years for air travel to recover. Alright, so here we go with Southwest CEO saying that they are not furloughing, which is laying off any employees for now. I mean, yeah, okay, it sounds great, but do understand that, like I stated in the piece, a lot of the airline companies, in order for them to take the government funding, they had to basically sign that they were not going to lay off any employees in order to get the money to stay afloat during this pandemic. They weren't able to furlough any workers. So, of course, they're going to say that they're not furloughing any workers for now. But, when those funds run out, they're going to have to go back to make some negotiations. And if we're still on the verge of lockdown in some states and travel restrictions being as tight as they may wind up being, then, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and come up with something else. And then they will start furloughing workers because everything's going to have to be downsized from the amount of people that will be able to be on a plane to amount of people in the airports. It's going to put a strain on a lot of things, and a lot of businesses are going to have to downsize to deal with that, which means shrinking it to some degree. So there will be a lot more unemployed people, not only in the air travel, but in road travel too, from the bus companies to a lot of things that will be affected due to this pandemic. But hopefully we'll at some point be able to get a grip on things and get to a new form of normal, if that makes any sense. Because the more we deal in this, the more it doesn't look good about anything coming back anytime soon. As Warren Buffett stated that the company started pulling their money out from the airlines because they think it's going to be years before they actually see returns coming from the airline industry. And that possibly could be true. I mean, again, you have to deal with the downsizing of ticket sales. You're going to have to break ticket sales up to in which it's only going to be an allowance of a certain amount of passengers on a particular flight, which cuts into money-making profits for a lot of these airlines. So this will be interesting to watch as well. An openly misogynistic lawyer who is believed to have killed the son of a female federal judge in New Jersey had a list of more than a dozen of other possible targets, including 3 judges, 2 doctors, and 3 people with knowledge of the matter. The list was found Monday in a rented car on a rural road in the Catskills of New York, where the lawyer, Roy Denhollander, age 72, had killed himself. Hours earlier, law enforcement officers believe that Denhollander walked up to the house belonging to Judge Esther Solis on a suburban street in North Brunswick, New Jersey, and fatally shot her 20-year-old son when he entered the door. He also critically injured her husband, The judge, however, escaped unharmed. Investigators have concluded that Dan Hollander traveled 8 days earlier by train to California to kill Mark Angelucci, age 52, a men's rights lawyer who is considered to be a professional rival. Angelucci, who was also shot at his doorstep. Esther Sullis and Angelucci were included on the list found in the rental car, along with at least 10 other people with whom Den Hollander apparently had scores to settle, including 3 jurists, the New York State Chief Judge, another federal judge in New Jersey, and a state judge in Manhattan, who, like Sullis, had presided over a case he brought. So, this gentleman, the lawyer who actually killed the federal judge's son and critically injuring her husband, was a little batshit cuckoo, if you ask me. Many reasons. One, he definitely had a thing for women. He did not believe that women should be in places of power. He, and I quote, stated that women should be strapped to missiles and sent to the Middle East. Things like that was the nature of this guy. And I don't know what brought him to those assessments, but I think probably wasn't the most greatest looking guy, probably got dismissed a lot from women, so you've always had this hatred towards women because you weren't accepted. However, moving past that, he's a murderer, so I don't think we need to dig too far in, he did it because he's mentally ill and kind of sugarcoat it that way. A murderer is a murderer, period. He murdered 2 people in cold blood, had a list of people for revenge. He had a FedEx delivery truck uniform that he would use to gain access to get close proximity to these people to murder them. That is how he showed up at the judge's house, where he killed the son and critically wounded the husband, and the other gentleman in California, how he killed him is at his front doorstep as well, probably posing as a FedEx delivery person. So FedEx has issued a statement that they, do not condone their behavior, and they are taking steps to, probably make sure that that kind of thing where their products and their uniforms don't go out like that, to where in which people can put them on and don themselves as delivery people and cause these kinds of heinous crimes. So we'll see how that goes, but yeah, it's unfortunate that people like that roam the earth and are not able to get their situations handled beforehand. He was going through a bit of a health crisis. I believe he was diagnosed with some kind of terminal cancer. So he, on his list, his hit list was the doctor as well who diagnosed him with his cancer. The judge whose son he killed, some other judges who ruled against him in some court cases, a fellow lawyer who was a rival of his was on his hit list. He just had an array of, bucket list people that he wanted to get rid of, that I guess if he felt like he was leaving, he wanted to take them with him. But again, with this, it's unfortunate that if it was on the other foot, he would be every bit of a thug and every bit of a low-life person, and you would look for everything to discredit this person. But on this end, you can talk about a lawyer, you can talk about his mental health not being all that great, But why wasn't there any checks and balances on his mental health before it got to that point is the question. Even in dealing with a terminal illness, some people, snap and stuff, and if unchecked. So the fact that he was able to go this long and nothing be done until the point where this happens, and it brings attention to everything, mental health, well-being, so on and so forth, is a bit unfortunate. A group of heavily armed black protesters marched through Louisville, Kentucky on Saturday demanding justice for Breonna Taylor, the black woman who was killed in March by police officers who broke into her apartment. Scores of demonstrators carrying semi-automatic rifles and shotguns dressed in black paramilitary gear walked in formation to a fenced-off intersection where they were separated by police from a smaller group of armed counter-protesters. The black militia, named the NFAC, want justice for Breonna Taylor, the 26-year-old emergency medical technician who died in a hail of gunfire when drug investigators bearing a no-knock warrant entered her Louisville home 4 months ago. One police officer involved in the raid was fired by the city's police department back in June. However, 2 other police officers were placed on administrative reassignment. No criminal charges have been filed against any of the 3 men. Breonna Taylor's death, which returned to prominence following the May 25th suffocation in Minneapolis police custody of George Floyd, has become a rallying cry in the nationwide protest against police brutality, racial bias in the U.S. criminal justice system. And lastly, with this case, it's nice to see armed black people protecting and wanting justice and using the same intimidation factor that the white counterparts are able to use freely. Whenever there's a protest, there's always a counter protest, and they are freely able to carry their guns and kind of be intimidating to the peaceful protesters. So it's nice to see that we have fellow black men and women, militarily trained, go out there and protest and be an intimidation factor to those who are opposed to justice or think that they can intimidate peaceful protesters. So that's nice to see. It is crazy to me how the killers of Breonna Taylor have not been brought to justice. This was not anything in which she was going to get arrested and a mishap happened and this happened. They were in the wrong place. They fired shots. They killed a woman literally because she was alive for at least 10 to 15 minutes, able enough to get her help to keep her alive, and yet they let her lay there. I guess while they tried to figure out what kind of story they were going to conjure up as to why they were in the wrong damn place or who gave them the wrong information in the first place. Trying to work out a story is the reason why she wound up expiring in her own place. With her boyfriend trying to protect them, thinking somebody was breaking in. He, who is a licensed gun owner, fired shots at the police, and they fired back. I just don't get it. At this point, even if it was a mistake, an accident, what have you, people still have to be held accountable for their actions. The fact that only one officer was fired and the other 2 placed on some administrative reassignment, whatever that's called. Is that a nice word for desk duty? But they should be behind bars. There are plenty of people that have killed people on an accident or some kind of something went too far. It wasn't meant for that particular person. They're not murderers, so to speak, but they are behind bars right now, serving jail time. And the fact that these officers, walk freely after something that could have been utterly avoided because you were in the wrong place, it wasn't the person. It was a grave mistake on behalf of the police department, and you can't even take responsibility and fire these officers and give the family the justice they deserve. You're still trying to string this along as well, we had information that the guy who they had already picked up earlier, that was his apartment, or he had mail coming in. Stop just creating the excuse and accept responsibility and fire the officers as a start, and then place them on trial so they can be held accountable for the crime they committed, because it was a crime. Once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.